My mother and sister keep harassing me by calling for welfare checks. How do I convince them to just leave me and my partner alone? Hi, this is not a legal question but a relationship question. According to the police, legally, there's not much I can do to stop someone from calling for welfare checks constantly. So basically, I moved out of my home state a few years ago, and I've had some really difficult mental health struggles this past year. I've had to take a break from school, but I've been much better lately, aside from the stress of the situation. I met my boyfriend here in the new state, and we live together. But my mother hates him for some reason. He's a great guy, and he treats me wonderfully. But she just plain doesn't like him. She also wants me to move home to Florida and live with her instead while I'm on a break from school, since she thinks it'll be better for my mental health. I disagree. So I stayed here. That's where this gets bad. Since I told her I'm not moving back to Florida, she's been constantly blowing up my phone. So I blocked her. Then, she sent me emails, so I blocked her. Then my sister started calling, so I blocked her too. And then my stepdad, and then my uncle, and then my two cousins, and then my other uncle. Then, one of my uncles actually took a flight all the way here and showed up at my door to come take me home. I stood my ground and stayed here, but I'm at my wit's end. My mother called in a welfare check. So I unblocked her later to tell her everything was fine and she didn't have to worry. Same with my sister. But now, whenever I don't pick up a call or if I respond to a text with "No, I told you I'm staying in Connecticut," they call the police for a welfare check along with some kind of story, I'm on drugs, my boyfriend is abusing me, etc. I'm not really comfortable with having police at my door all the time and then having to convince them that I'm really fine and it's all a lie. The third welfare check in 2 months was about an hour or two ago. 4 cops showed up at my door. I told them I can't deal with this anymore and neither can my boyfriend, who's getting really fed up with it too. They said they can't just not do a welfare check, but they can try calling me first if I gave them my number. It won't solve the issue though if there's enough suspicion that I'm not okay. They have to come. I just don't know what to do. I'm stressed. Interacting with cops and defending my boyfriend against accusations is stressful. A side note, my mother also played a role in my getting evicted from my apartment. Long story short, because of my mental health bills and my partner getting laid off, we've been financially tight and we're late on rent. My mom called the landlord and recommended eviction, along with the whole story, I'm sure. My landlord is evicting me as of today. Edit. More context on how my mother played a role in this is in a comment. My boyfriend's parents have been kind enough to let us stay with them for a little bit until we can get back on our feet, but they're not okay with cops coming to the door, period. Understandable, they're retired and don't want the stress. But my mother knows my boyfriend's parents' address. She's creepy and has even called my boyfriend's mother. And although I didn't tell her where I was moving, I doubt it will take her long to figure it out. But if she calls one welfare check to that house, I will legitimately become homeless, and I'll probably lose my relationship with my boyfriend too. I'm just at such a loss here. What do I do? I can't block her because she just freaks out. I can't respond to her either, and I can't afford to lose my only housing opportunity left over this. I will never go back to Florida, though. There's so much more, too. She even called my boyfriend's workplace to try to get him fired once. She also calls me from numbers I don't recognize, etc. But all this is under the guise of concern for my sick daughter. Has anyone else been through this and have any advice? It's urgent. Comment. Change your numbers and your address, and just don't let them have the information. Contact the local police and explain that this is a pattern of harassment and to please stop enabling them to harass you. Get a lawyer to send a cease and desist letter to each of them. That gives you a paper trail to justify a harassment charge. My ex used to send the cops to my house for welfare checks all the time to harass me and the kids. The cops would roll up, say, "Hello miss, we're here again for a welfare check, can you have them come out?" And I'd have to get all the kids to stop what they were doing and come see the police officers. They'd say "Okay, thanks ma'am, have a great day" and leave. They were just as tired of the fake welfare checks as we were. One day I had the same 2 cops as usual, and they said they were going to warn him that he would be cited for filing false reports if he did it again. I never had another welfare check after that. State laws are different, so YMMV. But you might be able to seek assistance from a domestic violence organization in your area. What your mother is doing is abuse, and domestic violence includes family members, not just intimate partners. No, she doesn't. It comes from an attorney's office. The C&D applies to the person, not a location. It is to put the recipient on notice that any contact or sending someone else as their agent will be deemed harassment. Yes, and notify everyone around you that you are getting a restraining order. The police will be coming to her door next. This is next level. If she cared about your mental health, she's going nuclear against you having it. This is control. Get an order and a lawyer. You can Google your state and restraining orders or your state and no contact orders. You can do this. I promise. You'll need to start acting like you are being stalked. Because you are. Give your mom a fake address if you can, or say you're moving in with BF's cousin or something. 9 days ago you posted about how your boyfriend is abusive to you when he drinks. 5 days ago you said in a comment you would move back home to your family if they'd still have you. You said you've been with him for 6 months and have been hospital at least twice, or 3 times, for mental health reasons in that time despite never being hospitalized before, even though your mental illness is lifelong. Don't stay in this relationship, love. This isn't healthy. It isn't going to end well. You won't get better mentally if you stay with this man, you will probably get much worse. Your family are right to be worried about you and do dislike him. It's so hard for people when they've grown up in an abusive home. Red flags just look like flags. Then they get stuck in the same cycle of abuse over and over again until they are able to make very big and purposeful changes in their life. And to stop the generational abuse so it doesn't continue. Re-educating myself and getting therapy helped me so much. I do not tolerate abusive behavior at all, and my kids are having the childhood I never got to have. But the learning curve to get here is tough. I think her mother is a narcissist. There have been many welfare checks, and none of them have resulted in any action. Getting the whole family to chase her down, cyberstalking her boyfriend and his parents, emailing her landlord and ordering them to evict her, disclosing personal health issues to the landlord. This woman isn't trying to protect her daughter, she's trying to take away every support and home she has so that she has no option but to return. It's about power and control. Poor Op doesn't have the mental capacity right now to even deal with her romantic relationship because all her energy is being used up trying to stop her own mother from burning her life to the ground. So you've posted 2 other very concerning questions in the past week, and appear to have deleted them from your account. Advice: your mother and sister have issues. So do you. But I don't think you should return home. Your boyfriend has a huge drinking problem, is too old for you and is verbally abusive at the very least. Please find a way out. He cannot be an emotional support for you because he is just as bad, in a different way, as your family. I can see why your family is worried. You do not appear very stable and are with an abusive older alcoholic. Do you have any family or friends to talk to who will not push you to move back to your mom? I am impressed at your ability to be pursuing a PhD though all of this nonsense. Also, I have no idea why your mother knows the address of your relatively new boyfriend's parents, but under no circumstances should she or anyone in your family know about the next place you live. Tell one friend, someone who will never contact your family. Next story 2. My husband angrily unloaded on me all the ways he finds me lazy. I'll just get to it. Today I had a bad day where I slept till 12 and then fell back asleep at 4 p.m. and only woke up once my husband came home from meeting his friend. While I slept in the morning he had walked the dog even though Fridays are my turn, because I wanted to sleep in. He seemed fine with it though. We ate together and then he left to see his friend. He came home and I was sleeping again. During my evening sleep, the dog had gotten into a garbage bag I'd forgotten on the floor and started eating the trash. He burst into our bedroom and started demanding why I was sleeping again and why the dog had been allowed to eat potentially dangerous trash. I was apologetic and cleaned it up, then left to walk the dog. Before I left my husband said that I am lazy. Once I came back I apologized more and told him I shouldn't have let that happen. He was okay with my apology. Then I messed up again by starting to ask if he really thought I was lazy. He said that yes, he thinks it is lazy that I have a habit of not picking up after myself and that he'd never leave trash bags on the floor like that and then go to sleep. I guess I was trying to convince him that I'm not always lazy and it flared his anger back up. He said he's actively trying to better himself by starting exercise, quitting alcohol, playing an instrument and learning new things. He wondered why I don't do anything like that and why I was content with eating unhealthy food and laying around on TikTok. Which I guess are both things I do a lot. To give context, both of us work, him full-time from home. I work 3 days a week outside the home and 2 days a week I study to finish my bachelor's degree. I started later in life because I didn't know what career I wanted. My husband said that his laziness comment isn't directed about how much I work/study/do around the house, but more about picking up after myself and not doing anything to better myself or have any hobbies. Which is true, I don't have any. I'm not sure what to do. I know I should exercise. I've gained 45 pounds in 3 years and am not looking after myself as well as I should. I'm just incredibly hurt by this revelation on what he thinks of me. So that's why I came here. I'd love some outside perspective. How should I try to fix this? Comment. Have you seen a doctor? As someone who would gladly spend most of the day in bed if I could, I also understand that's not normal and am generally good at listening to the part of my brain that says get your ass out of bed and do something productive lol. I get it, it's a hurtful thing to hear. But do you think there might be some truth to it and maybe you should figure out why this is happening? Yeah, definitely check with a doctor, but as a divorce lawyer, everything in this post stands out to me as a relationship where neither party's needs are being met. He's impatient and critical. She's exhausted and struggling. This is what it looks like when your emotional needs are being starved. Everything around you starts to fall apart. And instead of pulling together, you start feeling like the other person is sinking you. It's like being waterboarded. You get a breath and it's just enough to keep going, but you're not really okay, ever. That's what I was thinking. If anything, 3 years seems pretty patient. Especially while he's trying to live a healthier lifestyle and willing to pick up the slack at certain times. Eventually, that becomes very old. Her needs are not being met because she's not meeting them herself. He's probably been supporting her as well as he could until his breaking point. You can tell relationship isn't right by the way it affects everything else in their life. You can believe me or not. But it's a fact. And a good therapist isn't going to be like you should communicate. Most people have talked themselves to death by this point. A good therapist is going to help them both feel better and get their needs met. Communion's part of that, but it's not even the biggest part. Getting in touch with your needs comes first. Withdrawal and criticism are what happens when you're not in touch with your needs. It's funny, I think of all this as so obvious and I come on here and it's like explaining colors to a blind person. Just no concept of emotional regulation at all. I suffer from OCD and am medicated for it. I've also had full blood work done regularly, as my iron and vitamin D levels were a bit low recently. But my behavior is not due to those, I think, as I've always tended to be a bit like this. Maybe it's a bit of depression, maybe I'm just like this. I'm not sure. There was truth to his words and that's why it stung even worse. Low iron and low vitamin D could absolutely negatively affect your mood and energy level. Sleeping until noon, being awake for 4 hours, and then going back to sleep is absolutely not normal and you need to take it seriously. It sounds to me like your husband has been watching your health deteriorate and your will to live collapse and he's finally hitting his breaking point. You need some big changes in your life regarding your diet, exercise habits, and taking responsibility for basic tasks like maintaining a tidy living space. While this 100% is understandable that it stings. Don't sit there and feel sorry for yourself. If you want to make a change, don't talk about it, be about it. What has helped me is making sure I always finish the minor tasks. Never tell myself I'll come back to something. Taking garbage out, reloading the toilet paper, putting laundry in when I know I have time to complete the cycle. It really transcends into other aspects of life.